SADC attended President Magufuli's inauguration. They included President Jacob Zuma. SABC's contributing editor Vuyo Mvoko sat down with President Zuma and discussed a range of issues, including South Africa's relations with Tanzania.
Yes, definitely. The ANC still has a special place, as well as CCM to the ANC has a very special space. We started relations with Tanzania during the days when it was still Tanganyika. Very strong relations even at the time. Those who remember history, we even sent a big contingent of nurses to come and help. At that time, we're not even free. It was just the organization doing so. And of course, Tanzania was our home for a long time. But also Tanzania has been very consistent in its own approach to things. Which has made the party here to stay so many years in power. So to us, we could not firstly miss coming here to be with them as they celebrate their victory. And we are very happy that indeed they came back. So in a sense, meeting of colleagues and fellow strugglers and comrades, so that's why the hugs and handshakes are warm and very user-friendly. So we are very happy.
Well, looking at this election, this past election in this country, the challenge was the closest it has ever been in the 54 years that CCM has been in power. Are liberation movements weakening?
Well, I would be happier if those who say so were able to tell the reasons why, because that to me is more important. If you take Chama Penduzi, during the elections, not this one, where Kikwete was elected for the second time, there was a very open support from the Western countries to the opposition and the NGOs. It was for the first time it became very visible. I think this time around, it became more than any other time. That is a trend that is facing former liberation movements. It's not the weakening, because that's why I'm saying those who say so, I would be keen if they would say why. Because they're not weakening because they become weak. There's a lot of work that is being done by those who are not happy that liberation movements are in charge and they continue gaining support from the citizens. They are therefore taking very practical steps to participate. They put in a lot of money to NGOs, to other people, and encourage people to move away from the party with an aim of weakening the parties. If you take, for an example, the last protest of students in South Africa, you can't tell me what provoked the supporting protests in USA and UK. That tells you the interest that people have and what is it that they would want to see the ruling parties, which come from the liberation background, not continuing. Because some, particularly if you take Chama Penduzi, they've not changed. They've not been able to be influenced to change in another direction. They keep their traditional positions, the manner in which they operate. I think here the hand of other people becomes even more stronger. It's not very common that without even any debate or conflict within the party, quite a number of leading personalities leave the party to join the opposition. They don't lead the party to form a new one. They just received the leaders there, give them a space. It looked like a lot of work went into that to say, because we can't form a new party that works, let us find the leaders who must come and lead the existing one. And I think that's what was being made a matter here.
By coming up with that narrative, are you then not shying away from taking responsibility as liberation movements?
There is no party that is perfect. Even the old parties are not perfect. you would know that liberation movements would have come to government without any experience before. But I think they've done very well. If you quote South Africa, I would argue that South Africa as a country has done more than any other liberation movement in terms of changing the quality of life, in terms of delivering things.
Well, looking at Tanzania, it's people who are saying that the party that brought them liberation 54 years ago is no longer doing what they expect of it. And if we take the example of South Africa that you've just highlighted, people are saying it's actually the ANC itself that is not implementing its own resolutions on higher education.
I'm saying there are no countries, for example, that have taken decisions about education. Those that have been free more than 50, 40 years ago. It has not been an issue. I always find it difficult for the ANC to be persecuted for progressive policies and decisions it take, only because at the level of implementation is not as, or if you put it on the balance, as the same as when they take the decision. We took the resolution ourselves to implement our policy, because free education is our policy. Now the question was to implement. To implement it, you are dealing with a situation where you need resources as well. Some of the implementation don't happen because the resources are not there. We are working on a way how this must be done. The Minister of Higher Education actually put a committee or a task team to work on the free education. There's a report already. That's part of the process of implementation. What the students were complaining about, that report has not been made public. But to say there's nothing that is being done, it can't be true, because we're actually doing something. What provoked the protest, much as that issue is being raised, is the rise of fees and registrations. That is a fact. Education has become very costly. And in a sense, because the manner in which particularly the tertiary institutions are doing it, they are then closing out the poor. This is what became an issue. The issue was not you are failing to implement. You are debating issues in South Africa because the government is taking decisions. There may be a problem in terms of implementing that is not fast enough. And if we are dealing with the economic problems that face the world and the country, where the growth is not enough for us to do what we thought we would have been doing. You will recall that 2008, that's when the global meltdown came. It has never given a chance to South Africa to do what it would want to do. But we've done a lot in education. We've split a department, created basic education so that we deal with the problems that face the poor in the main. So that's why I'm saying I will argue with people who say it's because of the failure. Now, the puzzling thing, the US people and the UK people protest. Why? They just pick South Africa to say, because this protest, let us protest in support. I'm saying that talks to the point I was making earlier, that they are interested in the countries, particular specific countries in Africa, to say, how could we weaken these? So I don't think the argument to say maybe we are to blame as former liberation movements is correct. There are other parties who have been there before. They've not made things better in any way, who might not have been former liberation movements. So I think it is just a feeling. You know, let me give you an example. When we're campaigning for chairperson of the AU, you know what some big countries in the Western countries were saying? We must fight this because we don't want former liberation fighters to head that institution because we will lose control of the institution.
Well, yes, South Africa has a much bigger economy compared to Tanzania, but Tanzania has been growing. Last year, it grew by 7%. The year before, it grew by 7.3%, yet it was facing the same global challenges that we were faced with. Is there anything that we're doing differently, that they are doing differently? And from the conversations that you've been having with them, are there lessons to learn?
If you take Tanzania, from day one, the economy was in the hands of the Tanzanians, the black Tanzanians. No matter how they are growing, that's what it is. In South Africa, up to this day, the economy is dominated by a particular class because of the structure of the economy of South Africa. We even introduced laws to try to shorten the distance. Black empowerment is attacked every day because everybody believes, or some people believe, you have got to remain where you are. If you go to the stock exchange, for example, I've said this in public, probably about 3% of black people are there, the majority. So if you look at it, whether you look at education, there are no protests within white students or whatever. Whatever you look at, because we said apartheid must go, but in practice, you still have a lot of it. The economy is the key to show that. We are now saying we are trying to develop black industrialists because they are not there. They are not in control of major levers of the economy. So that's a problem we're dealing with. Whether you are in Zambia, whether you are in Tanzania, whether you are in Angola, they don't face that problem. And therefore, if we do the comparison, we should always bear that in mind, that they moved from a particular point. We are moving from an experience they don't have. They never had institutionalized racism. We had.
On to sports now. The Minister of